stuff. It's like impossible to explain to anybody other than you. But
we need like a nerd therapy session to just go, okay, I've really been into this lately, and it's a lot.
I'm like, will you just tell me I'm cool? I'm going to say a bunch of stuff. Just say I'm cool, right?
Getting started. Started. Hit that like, everybody. Share the show, if you will. We're about to go. All right. Oh, and we're up on Instagram now. Okay. All right. Now. All right. Okay. All right. Now. I'm gonna jump into this. Now I gotta say, before I bring on Rob Glenn, hang out 1 second. I gotta say, all right, it's a very big Friday Eye because I get to hang out with Rob next weekend in person for Friday Eye if we can make it. He's got a lot of work going on. Like I'm gonna be following him around with a laptop and a phone, trying to do it on the fly. And last night I was up till 2:00 in the morning because I chose to add a song to my bit for the White House, not the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And so I will always add work to myself. This is where Rob and I understand each other in that we get out way over our skis and we're okay with it. And so welcome, yes. Rob. I'm just living the cool really lifestyle. Huh? Oh, you
really
are. You're very tall. I shrank down because I had to change the sizing of my lens to do something for the show.
I'm like twice your size.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like, well, it's kind of spaceship beam you in kind of brainiac overlord. You're like Q on this, not the QAnon Q, but the one from Star Trek. Anyways,
Yes,
hi.
I got
How
you.
are you this fine morning? Wait 1 second. Let me go
I'm
ahead and tell
well.
everybody how
I'm
you're
well.
good. Okay. This is all right. Well, good.
Yeah. So everything's going great. We're if anybody's been paying attention to the last few shows, we're moving on Well, it won't be May 1st. We're gonna be in our space on May 1st, but the move's probably gonna
Right.
happen starting the next week. And once we're there, we're gonna kind of go into a new mode, post tariff new mode, and just go all in, man.
Yeah, I like. Rob is going to be one of our new oligarchs. He's going to become
Well,
a manufacturing mandate. He's going to be the new Rockefeller. I guess was it Well, it wouldn't be Ford. Yeah, Rockefeller invested in all the steel mills, so I guess that would be
yeah.
the one. Yeah,
My thing there is I'm not looking to get rich. We just want to make a living, like so start there, and if things go well and we get rich, then fine, but really we're just trying to make a living.
well, Rob, back in
And
those days, back in the early parts of the Industrial Revolution, young man, people weren't trying to get rich either. You had a young Rockefeller who had just flown over here on a boat that he was in the hull of, and he'd slept in it and gotten gangrene from a rat that he had to eat for lunch every day, but he was happy to do it. And he all he wanted to do was get two nickels to rub together, one made of flint and one made of steel, so he could make a fire. And with those two
right.
nickels, he started a furnace. And with that furnace, he started to melt ore. And from that, it grew into a big thing. And suddenly, the next thing you knew, he was a gin alcoholic and fat as a house. So
There
it
you
could
go.
happen to you. That's
Well,
my 1920s instructional film. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I'll try to do that.
I've listened to way too many tapes of Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
If you
And
haven't,
then on the AI front,
Yes.
we've been doing some pretty cool stuff. And the thing that I'm constantly kind of surprised about is how we've talked about like layers of abstraction. Like it's a UI, it's skipping certain coding things. Like
Right.
you skip over, you get the agents, all that stuff. And as we do the work we're doing, I'm constantly surprised at how I even forget that it can do stuff. It can skip steps and do stuff.
Yes.
I'll give an example. So we were trying to create a tooling library for our CAM software. CAM is we take our computer-aided design, we
Yes.
turn it into like what our machines run. Or what our machines actually use as code to run. That's called CAM. And we need to have like digital twins of all the stuff inside the machine and the tooling. And so we needed to make this big database. And most of the time you just hand type things in. So we were
Right.
trying to automate it. And I realized that we could run each tool's model number through a web search
Uh-huh.
and have the LLM actually just use the data on the website and like self decide how to translate that data that's on their page for that thing into
Wow.
our list. And like what I thought I'd have to do is create like a translator, and I just skipped making the translator and just
Right.
said go do it.
Yes.
And it
Well,
did
okay.
it, and it was
So
very accurate.
again, the democratization of technology is something that I am all for, and I don't think people have a grasp of. And this goes way back to little Hal coming out here, packed in his shit in his car, and driving out from Chicago to be an actor in LA, and arriving here and end up working for Marianne Williamson, running her lectures. And at that point, people are like just starting to put up websites. Like the internet is just starting to pop a little bit. And I talk her into buying Marianne.com, which she still has to this day. You're welcome. I'm sorry. And building her first website. and I had pitched it to her because I was fascinated by the idea that as somebody who had to take video cassettes of my reel of any video I could get, especially when you're doing stand-up. If you were doing stand-up back in the day and you wanted to reach new clubs and you didn't have an agent that was booking out of the region, out of the Midwest or wherever you were, you had to send videotapes of your set to them, which means you had to videotape your fucking set, which was a big deal. You couldn't do it on a phone. You had to have either a club with a camera or find somebody who had a high 8 camera, and the quality had to be reasonable enough to make you, look, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. So it had to look better than the quality of the gigs you were doing, which was never possible. And so I had to have a stand-up tape, a VHS tape. I had to have an acting reel on a VHS tape. I had to make multiple copies of that, meaning I was purchasing as a young actor 5 to 8 minute VHS tapes. They would sell them in these short versions for these kind of like promo videos. So you would buy a bulk of these with money you didn't have, sit there with a fucking VCR that had 2 decks on it at a place you would go to copy tapes. And you would make copies of these fucking tapes, and it was bad enough that you had to get headshots. My dad shot my first headshots on basically a glacier at the lakefront during one winter when it was, how on the lakefront where it just looks like you're in fucking Antarctica. I went out there with like my jacket and did a bunch of like these kind of pictures, and my dad took them with his camera. One was halfway decent. We blew it up, and I made 8x10s out of that thing. Then you got to get those fucking things printed. Now, most people get a picture printed. They get a picture printed on picture paper. But when you do a headshot, you had to do it on cardstock matte paper that you got at the thing. And if you could afford glossy, fancy pants, you would get those. And you would buy them in a stack of 100. And it was expensive. They were like $1.25 a piece. And again, if you're not making anything, you look around and you've got a bunch of stuff. You got a bunch. I had a giant cardboard box full of my acting reel and my stand-up tapes. I had like 2 reams, basically this thick, of headshots. Now, back in the day, you used to take those to your manager's office, and they would send them out if they needed them once you had representation. So I come out to LA, I've got this, and I'm like, I'm gonna put I give this to my manager. My manager gets raided by the police for embezzling funds from a film that they were allegedly working on. The manager I had only worked there as a secondary manager. She was hip pocketing me, which is what you used to do back in the day. But the guy leading the company was just a flim-flam dude. And when they raided the office, they took everything. They took all the stuff, all the files, everything, including my box of video cassettes that I sat there for fucking 2 hours, a day for a week copying. And then all my headshots, all my printed resumes on my fancy, ivory paper, like that fucking matters. And when it had nothing to do with the case, they threw it in the garbage. It's gone. All gone. Just gone. Start from fucking scratch. So when the idea came up that you could put images and text on a website, I was like, fuck this printing stuff. I want a headshot and resume on a website. I'm going to get halsparks.com, and it's going to have my headshot and my fucking resume on it, so that I don't have to go through this again. If I ever run out, I can go, here's the URL for this, and I can go http://www, which stands for World Wide Web, halsparks.com, right? And so literally this was a fucking lightning bolt lifesaver for me. That if I went in having that for real, I still had to do headshots and resumes later on, but I was like, getting to the point where at least you can have like this little, it was like 240 video. And I managed to upload clips to my website that instead of having the whole reel on there, it would just have little pieces. So if somebody wanted to go there, they could look at them. And I was like, never again will somebody get to throw away all my shit, and never will I have to like sit and fucking spend money and hours doing this. So having a website, just that thing alone, democratized suddenly me as this scrapping nobody in Hollywood trying to make it, versus the rich kids from my high school whose parents got them an apartment outside UCLA and paid for all of it. Paid for all their video cassettes to be done by a professional company. They had labels. You used to print fucking labels. I know this is a rant, but this is why it matters. This is why the democratization of technology made all the difference in the world. It is why I was able to take my sketch comedy group and do a pilot for that sketch comedy group and pitch it. We got a deal with USA Networks. I've told this story before. Turns out they wanted me because I wrote and directed the vast majority of it. I directed all of it, but I wrote and they didn't want my team. I said no, and my team thought they wanted them but not me, so they were like, we have to fire you and go back to the network. We think we've got the deal. And I was like, you people are fucking insane. And that was the end of it. But I still had that. I still had the show, and I was able to cut that together because computers had gotten faster. We got my roommate Rob at the time got a Media 100 system, and I was able to edit together a half-hour pilot for a show using just scrap together stuff. Now you could do it in a day almost. It's crazy. The availability of it is so shockingly wonderful.
We're shrinking the time between creation and actual
product
execution.
And quality execution.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the other thing. So the democratization of all these tools, the fact that, I'm doing this, my silly fun little show with decent camera quality and audio quality from my fucking house, is never lost on me. I am so grateful that this stuff is available. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because I know how many barriers were between me and being able to get my dream off the ground. And the idea that just doesn't exist, even if you just have a shitty phone from 5 years ago and a laptop with any of the current GPTs and free DaVinci Resolve software. I wish people could just grasp how glorious that is for a creator.
For that, I always say, I've been telling everybody, just start making, make the thing, figure out what it is you're going to make and sell. Yeah. And to some degree, you want to worry,
even if it's disposable armor for the end of the world. Right.
Put a different hat on while you're understanding the ethics of what the laws should be and how to deal with that stuff. And then with your other hat on, start using the tools and start making stuff. And don't worry about how it gets there. Worry about what is it that you're making and what is your part of that. And then, and in terms of the whether you're stealing something or not, I always say, it's your responsibility to know, to go and look and see if what you did is plagiarism, essentially. I jumped a little ahead with that comment.
That's okay. No. But the point I'm trying to make. So above all, and by the way, hi chat room, welcome to the show. Hit that like, share the show. Patreon.com/AlSparks. Blah blah blah. Super chats to help the show keep going. And also, we're on Substack. If you want to subscribe there, you don't have to do a paid subscription. Just help me get my numbers up. And then, of course, we're on Instagram. Hi, Instagram people. Throw in some kind of robot emoji or something if you hear me and you understand what I'm talking about how the tools that are available, that used to be available to stock traders at the top of Wall Street and coders that were only in Silicon Valley. You could only, these people would move there. You would have to go to the best schools in the world to kind of poach coders, even at a medium level, if you wanted to do a startup, because all the best coders were already spoken for all over the place. That's all but gone now. That is, and it's never coming back in that regard. You as a person, and it's really just about about having some, what I would call, I think the guy on Film Riot calls it couch time. And you guys will love this. Just lay on the couch without the TV on or anything. Just lay on the couch and think about what you'd want, what you want to do, and what you could create, and what there isn't, what there should be. Even if it's a program, a charity that should happen for this particular thing, the structure to do it now with a skeleton crew and a very small budget is increasingly coming into focus in a very effective way. And that's while everybody's yammering on about fucking Skynet, the reality is that there, unless you, all of us have thought at one point, I would love to start an animal charity or a thing, and everything the next thought you have is, Where the fuck? Okay, I'll need a fucking bookkeeper and an accountant, and I'm gonna have to fill out the files. I don't know how to fill out the files. I don't even know what the fucking first steps are. You can literally go into something like ChatGPT and go, I want to start a charity that's like this. What are my first steps? I want to make it a legal charity with a 501c3 designation. What, you know,
You don't
how do I
even need
start?
that information. You can
Right.
just literally say, "Where do I start?
Yeah, and it
Give me
will
the first
start.
three things to do."
Yes, and
Um,
so
Also, a lot of a lot of times you can also say act as a whatever business consultant, a lawyer. You ask, or you basically tell it to act a certain way with a certain type of personality or from an expert in a certain domain, and ask it
mhm,
where to start and what to do, and it'll list it right out for you. And if you keep diving in and following the rabbit hole, you will get it done.
right. I had uh, like I had to. I won't get into what it was because I like it to be a mystery. But I had a thing where I had to file some legal papers
Yeah,
here in Nevada, just for like when you're moving your business and you're doing those kind of things. And I'm like, I don't know what. I'm like, could I sit down and go through websites and read? Yes. Do I need to have that skill ever again? No. It's a disposable skill. And I think that's, where you're like, I need to file this thing. I'm never going to have to really do it again. And if I do, I can look it up again, but I don't need to memorize it. It doesn't need to be a skill set I develop. It's a disposable
yeah,
skill. And I think a lot of people don't recognize how many hurdles there are that are disposable skills. You either have to hire somebody that's a specialist, or you'd have to spend way too much time learning this one step. And so you just say, fuck it. And there's so many good people with so many good ideas and so much heart and so much desire to help the world. And they hit this fuck it wall because, frankly, the personnel, the technology, the information, or even the function of doing it themselves or something else was just out of their grasp. It's just not there, right? And now it is. And again, one of the biggest reason why I'm bullish about AI is that primary thing, because that I have a long history of going, okay, now I'm on equal footing with people that were light years ahead of me financially, light years ahead of me in terms of connections and networking and stuff like that. Just being able to make my own flyers and print them at home for my stand-up shows when I was doing these showcases with all my buddies. I would throw together a stand-up show in LA, and there'd be like 5 or 6 of us, and we were all humping at the same time. And you can go back and ask any of these guys, Jim Coughlin, Brian Crow, Chris Bono, a bunch of others, that we're all like, okay, we can't get time at the big clubs. We're all open micing, punching our way up in LA. What do we do? I'm like, well, throw a showcase and send out stuff to all the agents, and that's what you're supposed to do. So let's fucking do it. So I would like work for 6 months, get enough money to rent out basically 4-wall a shitty little room at one of these clubs, like Largo or something like that, when they were fairly cheap. It was like $500 for the night, and I
hmm
would put everybody on there. We'd all do 20 minutes. We'd film it, so we all had a new set. Like I was just like, we can solve this shit now, and that that trajectory has always been inspiring to me. And it's ratcheting up as like exponentially right now.
yeah. I'm actually starting to see in some of the articles that talk about education and AI.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to see language where people are starting to describe the shift of how you're teaching or what you're teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and the shift is not like specifically rote things that you need to know, and
Mm-hmm.
instead problem solving skills or
Right.
critical thinking, or like even uh, how to structure language around a problem that you want to solve and then go
Uh-huh.
about solving it. So that is actually starting to happen, and that's a big deal. Education has been kind of shifting from, like I said, like the rote ways of doing things into that. But this will be an accelerator for that because the tools require you to change, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
at as opposed to like what the answer is, or sorry, like a calculator gives you the answer. It's more about teaching how to ask the questions or how to solve the problem in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are really thinking about this are thinking down those lines. Like, how do you literally teach kids how to think differently?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so in our experience, like that's real. Those are the hurdles. Is like you're asking it to do something the way that it's currently done, and like the big shift is working with the tool to do things in a new way that it's capable of doing. And those are two
right.
completely different ways to approach it.
Yeah. So uh, I want to show you something that people will react to this as if, oh God, Trump. And by the way, believe me, you didn't know about this, but I want to show you this.
I have not seen this.
So yes, I just warned Rob about this morning. Trump signed an executive order on, and the title of it is just, it's so them. I mean, it's
Well, as we've talked, like it's really the title is all that matter because nobody reads it and nobody cares what it says because nobody follows it.
And again, like I don't. We'll see if this is the quote from him. Let me see. Let me play a little of this. See if you can hear it.
Executive order relates.
You hear that? Could you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it. I don't know if
all right.
YouTube can.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going out on our thing. Let me show you this. Let's go to here. Oops. I have to.
I love these. Like this is literally his perch. Like,
yes,
it's like a little studio, and like he's a content creator.
That's exactly right. Yes, it's just fucking YouTube. It's hilarious.
Like there's so many things where like the picture online is just another one of him holding up his stupid
right. Yeah, and they all look. And the interesting thing is, the problem they're going to run into, and you'll probably see them start to do something about it because they're just media suckers. Is they're going to have to make them look different. He's going to have to I want this one to be blue.
All look the same. That's the problem.
Yeah, it all looks like he's doing the same shit every day, and he is. If you look there's a stack of these fucking things. There's this one, and they're executive orders. So all they are is fucking moving around the deck chairs on the Titanic in terms of his agenda. They don't, the directive that he's giving. It's those committee hearings or cabinet meetings that they're sitting around talking. Okay, that's what these are. These are written versions of the cabinet meetings. All they do is they sit at the cabinet meeting and go, I would like to do this, and we should probably do this. And the cabinet, and then he goes, okay. And that guy and the team in there drafts up an executive order that says they're going to do this. These are fucking memos. That's what they are. They're memos. So listen to this.
I started to call it, they're writing fan fiction.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Everything about Trump is like his own. He wrote his own fan fiction, and he's trying to create that reality.
Right. Yeah. And he's getting well within the multiverse confusion matrix. All right, here you go.
Right.
This next executive order relates to artificial intelligence education, sir. You've obviously done a lot in the artificial intelligence space already.
Well, yes, your intelligence has been artificial for years.
All of his tweets.
The basic idea of this executive order.
Yeah. You've been using Grok to sound smarter and dumber at the same time for a year and a half.
That's the better
example. Properly train the workforce of the future by ensuring that school children, young Americans, are adequately trained in AI tools so that they can be competitive in the economy years from now into the future.
Which is just you and I know. What he's saying is they're gonna. I don't even know that Trump understands what he's saying or either of them are talking about. We're going to train kids to use AI for in the future. First of all, AI is going to change as it goes along. The skills that they have will be the same skills they would learn if they were learning critically, no matter what tool they're using. Right. So it's just silly. And what they don't mean, what I want to be clear is, what they don't mean is that they're creating the programmers of the future. They're not, it says teaching AI in schools. They're not teaching how to create LLMs or machine learning or any of that. That's not what he's talking. He's just talking about using AI in schools. They honestly, I don't think they know. It's so weird. We'll look at the actual executive order that he signs, But listen to his response. I've only read one sentence of it, and it won't disappoint.
As AI becomes a bigger and bigger deal.
That's a big deal because AI is where it seems to be at.
You know, hipster. Hey,
Yeah.
baby. Yeah, cool cat. AI is where it seems to be at. Yeah, with all the hep cats today. AI is where. Please, fucking please. All right, wait. Hold on.
Does he go
It's a
on
big
or?
deal because
Yeah.
AI is where it seems to be at. We have literally trillions of dollars being invested in AI, and somebody today, a very smart person, said that AI is the way to the future. I don't know if that's right or not, but certainly very smart people are investing in it heavily.
Okay, AI is the way to the future. I kind of understand what he's saying. You do realize that the future comes whether you want it to or not. Nothing can stop tomorrow. You know, it's a little dumb. But listen to that again real quick.
Very smart people are investing in it.
Hold on, this part.
I don't know if that's right or not, but certainly
Wait, it's long.
said that AI is the way to the future. I don't know if that's right or not, but certainly very smart people are investing in it heavily.
So, yeah. That's a big deal.
Very smart people are also heavily investing in crypto and losing their money there. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of smart people invest in casinos, and some of them manage to make a living.
right. I mean, this entire thing is just for this picture right here.
Yes,
It's that picture, and they all look the same.
right.
And then it's up on
And
like
he's
some
he's
page with a
got a-
headline, and they're like,
Right.
he's doing stuff.
Yeah,
He's doing stuff.
We're doing more stuff than anybody who's ever done stuff in the history of stuff. And you're like, asshole, everybody signs executive orders. They just don't make a parade out of it. And they also, one of the reasons why other presidents haven't signed as many executive orders is because they get legislation done to make those
Yeah.
changes permanent.
Yeah, well, I mean, but a lot of these don't even have any usefulness. Like, they're just words on a paper. Nobody listens to them, or they just disregard them, or they don't even have any meaning.
Yeah.
So it's literally just someone sitting there creating content for his social media.
Right. Yeah. This is, it is the truth sinkhole production, right? of Trump's whatever the story
Right.
he wants to tell later.
So you said you have it. Sorry, that's somebody really
Yeah.
loud driving by.
Yeah. No.
What is the title of the EO?
Yeah. Let me bring it up on the page so I can show it to you. Let's see. Think aloud.
Is
There we
it-
go.
America is going to be in it, and first or exceptional or something.
there's
and
a lot
AI
of-
and
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this also is very telling, and what it means versus what it does. This is hold on, advancing artificial.
so
Advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth, and so. Let's see what it actually does, Rob Glenn. Let's see if this is going to actually advance artificial intelligence education for American youth. By the way, we're going to make sure you can be, damn sure that foreign kids are not going to be able to learn this stuff from any of our systems. We're gonna build a wall, a big beautiful wall around AI, right?
It'll be
By the
a
authority vested in me is the PPT
artificial wall.
king. Yeah. Okay.
so let's get past all this.
Yeah, the background,
Like,
section
what
1, which
what does
is
it actually do?
to achieve this vision, we must also invest in our educators and equip them with the tools and knowledge not only to train students about AI, but also to utilize AI in their classrooms to improve educational outcomes. Again, this is not about teaching kids how to create AI or design LLMs. By the time that even high school kids are out, that ship will have sailed. That's how fast this shit is working largely.
That's still in the background. That's
Yes.
not what it's doing.
Right, agreed. So this is just, we have this goal, and while we're going to meet this goal, and while AI education is kindergarten through 12th grade is critical, our nation must also make resources available for lifelong learners to develop new skills for a changing workforce, which means fucking nothing. Like, what is he going to do? Give you and I a free ChatGPT subscription on the government? I'm for it, but But again,
So he's
okay,
establishing a task force. There it is.
That's
Establish
a-
an artificial intelligence education task force.
yes,
You
right.
mean bureaucracy?
Yes, right. The same thing every other politician fucking does. And, but he's an outsider. So, okay. It is the policy of the U.S. to promote AI literacy and proficiency among Americans by promoting the appropriate integration of AI into education, providing comprehensive AI training for educators, and fostering early exposure to AI concepts and technology to develop an AI-ready workforce and the next generation of American AI inventors. 3, for the sake of this, for the purposes of this order, artificial intelligence or AI has the meaning set forth in 15 USC 9401(3). We'll look that up in a second. 4. Okay, establishing an artificial.
This is what they're doing.
This is what they're actually doing. Establishing an artificial intelligence education task force, which, great. We're going to have fucking, I don't know, Musk and McMahon and like, I don't know, Stephen Miller.
They're already cabinet members.
Yeah. Well, okay, that is hereby established White House Task Force on Artificial Intelligence. Director of the Office of Science and Technology shall be the chair of the task force. The membership will include Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Education, Director of National Science Foundation. First of all, don't these other fuckers have shit to do? Like,
Well,
and isn't he getting
in
rid of the
theory,
Department?
For sure, the education secretary. It
Right.
is about education.
That one makes sense. So does the Science Foundation. So does I guess the assistant for the president of domestic policy, special advisor for AI and crypto, which is that jerk off, and the assistant to the president for policy, because they have to actually draft the shit, because none of these assholes know how to put together any of the stuff, even using AI. That's the funny part. One of the reasons why the policy people are in on this is so that when you draft the policy, they are familiar with how you have to word it, what it has to be a legal document, and all that kind of stuff. When technically speaking, if these people knew shit about AI, they could probably get to that point beforehand. They wouldn't even have to engage with them. They would have to present their draft, and then that person would just clean it up.
Yeah,
Fuck.
AI would get rid of the entire task force.
Right.
That's what it's for.
Well, and we may be that may be what this is all about. Like Trump may accidentally go, today's this is going to replace the cabinet with GPTs assigned to all their jobs, including the president. What? Right.
It'd have been better if the list was A, ChatGPT, B, Claude, C.
Yeah, right. C. Right. Olama. 5 different like specialty models from Hugging Face. Right. The task force shall be responsible for implementing the policy stated in Section 2 of this order and coordinating federal efforts related to AI education, including the actions outlined in this order. Okay, great. The policy, implementing the policy. And again, I want to point this out, and I think it's, again, this goes to your whole fanfic thing, which is very important, because he's signing all these executive orders, but they all end the same way, which is this will not establish or create funding for anything. If it goes against any current law in the books, it cannot be implemented. This is all well within the normal aspects of the presidential policy directives, but it's not going to magically, like, any more than Doge is a real department that was created. He can fucking sign all these all he wants to, but no money will be allocated to a new department if he just makes one up. There's just no checks going to be cut. They will not. You must go through an act of Congress to cut checks for something. So this task force is just another meeting to busy these fuckers while they're screwing up their regular job. That they don't, it's just going to be another thing on their agenda. It has nothing to do with like a new department or anything. Okay, so Section 5, establishing the Presidential Artificial Intelligence Challenge. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the task force shall establish plans for Presidential Artificial Intelligence Challenge, which is called the Challenge. So, that's why they put it in parentheses. So, from this point forward. Yes, right. And the agencies representing the task force shall, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, implement the plans by holding the challenge no later than 12 months from the submission of the plan. The challenge shall encourage and highlight student and educator achievements in AI, promote wide geographic adoption of technological advancement, and foster collaboration between government, academia, philanthropy, and industry to address national challenges with AI solutions. And again, to address national challenges with AI solutions. So he's basically crowdsourcing government solutions by going, Hey, clean our water. Hey, fix our air. Okay, and people are doing that anyways. They don't need this to happen. But
this is pretty
what are they going to do?
standard stuff that you would do with a policy through the education department, especially.
Totally right.
It's like change AI to STEM, and you could write the same thing.
That's exactly it. And they're moving from STEM to AI because it sounds more modern and MAGA-y than STEM does. Exactly. And STEM sounds gay and female and inclusive and diverse, and they don't like it. So we're trying to get these girls in STEM. So we hate STEM just because somebody was trying to include girls. Boo-hoo. And so, for real, they're using AI as a placeholder. Well spotted. The challenge
the funny thing there, though, is that you need STEM to get to AI. If you want to work on AI, not work with AI, but work on it.
And if you're gonna get these AI goals, you're going to improve STEM across a wide group and all. Right. So, and schools aren't going to leave girls or kids from diverse backgrounds out of it. As a matter of fact, again, it will democratize and speed up some of those temporary skill parts that might have held them back because they're like, I don't need to learn that. And the way people feel about algebra a lot of times. Right. They just feel, kids tend to feel about a lot of these things like they feel about algebra. Like, I'm not going to use that, so why am I learning it? Because it helps your brain grow. That's why, asshole. But anyways, which is why my kid is good at math. Just saying. All right. So the challenge will feature multiple age categories, distinct geographic regions for competition, and a variety of topical themes of competition to reflect the breadth of AI applications, encouraging interdisciplinary exploration. Grown men and boys working together.
That's all fine stuff. Yeah, let's have a national directive to get kids to use AI.
Have a contest, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like a science fair. It's like a big national science fair.
It's exactly that. But science fairs are nerdy and gay and weak and stupid and diverse and full of chicks.
It's like a education department X Prize kind of thing.
Right. Yes, it is exactly. But there's no money allocated to it. Except maybe
it's just a bunch of people in a list coming together and talking about it, maybe on video, so that they can say AI one more time in the media.
Yeah, and you can fly people people can fly to DC on their own dime, so they can be handed a fucking plaque behind Trump to make it look like he's actually doing something on any of these things. The task force and, as appropriate, agencies represented on the task force shall collaborate with relevant agencies and private sector entities to provide technical expertise, resources, and promotional support for implementing the challenge, including through existing funding vehicles. Improving education through artificial intelligence. Okay, so this is where the rubber hits the road. To provide resources, and again, this is the part where, okay, asshole, if you shut down the Department of Education, you can't.
You have to have the Department of Education to deliver these things.
To do any of it, right? That's okay.
For K, if you don't have it, you can't do it.
Right, especially for K through 12. Universities, you could do direct grants or some shit through other agencies and just go, this is a scientific, the science office can do grants and you could do it through there. But if you don't have the Department of Education, you can't interact with K through 12 education in states at all. Okay, so for K through 12 education, agencies represented on the task force shall seek to establish public-private partnerships, which, by the way, can we just, you've seen some of the fucking Glenn Beck shit that I've gone through with the Great Reset. This is communism to them. Most of us, when I hear public-private partnerships, I think like you, I remember a day when the Republicans were saying government can't do shit right, private industry can. So we should, like we do with defense contractors, we should get these guys to create a public, we should work with them because they specialize in these things. And the government can work with them and we'll have, special arrangements, and it'll be part public funding and part private funding, but it'll be specific for stuff in the United States for education and things that we're allowed to do this, that doesn't fuck with trade and all the things that Trump is complaining about in other countries where they subsidize industry. Boeing's planes for the military are not the same as Boeing's commercial jets and the like. We have a very strong separation here. But public-private partnerships is what Republicans were always for. They were always for that. And now all of a sudden it's communism. It's, and again, our concern was it becomes fascist at a certain point where government and industry become so overlapping that the oligarchs get a control point. And so you have to limit those things, right? That was our concern with public-private partnerships on the
And here
Democratic side.
you've got Elon Musk, who already has public-private partnerships
Right.
between SpaceX and NASA, and he's got Grok that he keeps talking about. So maybe this is Grok in all schools, right?
Well,
there's the danger.
yes. Well, and that's the idea too, is that they do a bunch of different technologies. So we'll include Grok in some of these, and I'm like, great. Like kids will bring in like school pictures, in their reports that have like looks like a wet T-shirt contest, because that's what Grok does. Okay, with leading AI industry organizations, academic institutions, nonprofit entities, and other, oh my God, nonprofits? What the hell? All right. And other organizations
NGOs?
with expertise in AI, that would be Friday AI with Hal Sparks and Rob Glenn, I think. We gotta
Yeah, we
get
need
in
a grant.
We need a grant for this show because we've been doing this. We've been working to implement this for a long time. I'm just saying, I love to stand behind Trump and make funny faces while he's signing stuff because I would not be able to. Like I could never stop myself. Okay, so with leading and expertise in AI and computer science education to collaboratively develop focused on teaching K through 12 foundational AI literacy and critical thinking skills. The task force shall promptly announce such public-private partnerships on a rolling basis as they are formed. The task force shall seek to utilize industry commitments and identify any federal funding mechanisms, including discretionary grants. Discretionary grants, there we go. They can be used to provide
discretionary.
Yeah, exactly. Used to provide resources for K through 12 AI education, which would be funding that goes through the Department of Education. And if you shut it down, so he's not shutting the Department of Education for at least a year. That's the good news from this, because he couldn't if he wants to do this anyways. If Elon Musk wants Grok in schools, the Department of Education has to stay. Like, that's the ironic.
If he does it through a federal, but he could go state by state and do it too.
Yeah, but he won't. Yeah, but state by state would be too easy to, like, one school would have a problem with it and it would be persona non grata available everywhere. But if it became integral to the system, that's the contract you want. You don't want just fucking Connecticut.
Exactly.
And you're not going to get California. All the states handing it out aren't going to use Grok. Like Washington State is going to tell him to go fuck himself. California, tell him to go fuck himself. All the East Coast, where Connecticut and like the Northeast, where all the high-end schools are, they're going to tell him to go fuck himself. New York's going to tell him to go fuck himself. So, like, maybe he'll get Grok in Louisiana schools, which, I mean, can they get worse? So, maybe the kids just get saucy, but they figure out how to learn. Okay, anyways, to the extent practicable and is consistent with applicable law, again, agencies shall prioritize funding for such purposes when it would further the aims of the program for which funding is available. And again, you need to go to Congress to pay for this shit, just like the wall, just like the ICE people or the Customs and Border Patrol down by the wall. You can declare an emergency, but that only lasts so long. Then you run out of discretionary funds. You got to go to Congress and ask them to make it permanent. And that's another example where he can't skip this step, and they know it. It's still in these executive orders. Okay, the task force shall work to ensure the resources funded as described in subsection I of this section are ready for use in K through 12 instruction within 180 days following the task force formal announcement of the first slate of public-private partnerships. So that's fucking punt. Within 90 days of the date of this order, blah, 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 blah. Within 90 days, the Secretary of Education shall issue guidance regarding the use of formula and discretionary grant funds to improve education outcomes using AI, including, but not limited to, AI-based, high-quality instructional resources, high-impact tutoring, and college and career pathway exploration, advising, and navigation. This is all stuff that Sam Altman and those guys sat down and talked him through before, and they're all expecting this.
Wrote it for him.
Huh? They what?
They probably wrote it.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And the weird part is that these public-private partnerships will involve them sitting there, and it won't involve Musk. Like, he's not going to be in these meetings. He'll drop by, or they'll try to do it, but Altman can't fucking stand him. Everybody thinks he's a poser in the AI field, so they don't want a Besant blow up with Musk at these fucking meetings making the press, right? So And then subsection 7, enhancing training for educators on artificial intelligence within 120 days of this order. The Secretary of Education, again, if you don't have a Department of Education, Secretary of Education has no method by which to do any of this shit, so I guess they're not shutting it down for at least 120 days. Will take steps to prioritize, and that's the important thing, the use of AI in discretionary grant programs for teacher training authorized by the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. So they're going to use an AI program to pick who gets what. That's fascinating.
Well, they're using they're using that act to help prioritize who gets it, right?
Right. That's
So
it.
who
Shall take steps to prioritize the use of AI in discretionary grant programs for teacher training authorized by the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965.
Oh, you're right.
As amended.
Yeah, so
So
they're
AI
using
will
AI to
pick.
decide who gets the grants.
Yeah. Welcome to the first official act of AI governance, ladies and gentlemen. It's here. If I'm reading this right, and God knows they could mean the opposite because these things are fucking written with crayons and hammers over there. But that sounds like to me that they are going to prioritize the use of AI in discretionary grant programs for teacher training authorized by the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, as amended under Title II of the Higher Education Act, as amended for reducing time-intensive administrative tasks, improving teacher training and evaluation, providing professional development for educators so they can integrate the fundamentals of AI into subject areas, providing professional development in foundational computer science and AI, preparing educators effectively teach AI in standalone computer science and other relevant courses. And within 120 days of this order, the director of NSF shall take steps to prioritize research on the use of AI in education. Director of the National Science Foundation shall also utilize existing programs to create teacher training opportunities that help educators effectively integrate AI-based tools and modalities in classrooms. This is going to be rushed before the next school year. That's why that's the timing on this. This is in midsummer.
Yeah, so I think that
announce this before
that
school.
Sentence we read before was about prioritizing like programs
where the funding will go. Yeah,
that use AI. No, that use AI. I think is what it means.
Right, but it could also be read that
if you've got like 20 applications and 2 of them use AI,
and the others don't,
you give the 2 and the others don't.
Right. So and again,
so yeah, I mean,
OpenAI and Claude already have higher education setups that they've already launched, so they're way ahead of it. Grok has no model that's even close to being able to be used in as a matter of fact, it's this close to being PG, needing parental guidance to use it at all in terms of its function. Even though it also sucks, it's like 5 models behind everybody else. Even as big as his system is, it's not helping. Part of it is how you train it, and I don't know what they're doing over there or what they're not doing over there, but it hasn't been good. Just saying.
Yeah.
So.
This is way better than a lot of the stuff you've read of his, and it leads me to believe that obviously, like somebody else, another organization wrote it, and it's just a pathway to start implementing that stuff.
Right, and this is, I would argue, this is because he brought in the AI companies, and this is what they would do, and again, they could ask their own model how to draft this up. Like,
totally.
I wouldn't doubt if they, between all of them said, okay, make this, eliminate any loopholes, weaknesses, make it as engaging and as comprehensive as possible. And Trump's like, scribbly do, right? And it's done, right?
What I would do is I'd take this text and I'd upload it into ChatGPT, and I would say, I don't believe Trump wrote this. Please rewrite it as if Trump wrote it, and see what that would say. See what that would sound like.
All right. Yes. Let's see. Okay, we'll paste. I don't believe Donald Trump wrote this.
And do it, and ask it to do it in less than 200 words.
Can you rewrite it in his style of speaking?
Or say the size of a truth social.
Yeah.
post.
And so, as a Truth Social post, see what it does. It's thinking about it. It might say no. It might actually.
Can your
Oh no!
pie girl read it?
Here it is.
It says
Absolutely, Hal.
no,
Here's
it
the White
won't.
House AI education. They hold on. I'll scoot this in so you can see it. Uh, Here's what the White House AI education announcement rewritten in Donald Trump's Truth Social style, full of exaggeration, self-congratulation, and vaguely hostile jabs.
Oh, there you go. It's got
A lot of
it's got it
people.
dialed in.
Well, it has memory now, and it knows what I do for a living. So,
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
this is my Chat GPT
Oh,
because
Actually, so this popped up, and maybe we should talk about this real quick. Chat GPT 4.0, mine did.
Mhm.
Just this week, it said now we can see memory across all of your projects or all of your chats.
Right. Yes.
And that's a new thing. It used to be that it only could see it in the single chat. So if you had like a really long, big chat and you do all, but what I do is I have different subjects. So I have like,
yeah.
I might have 20, 30 different chats and each are a different subject.
Yeah.
It can go through all of them now, have all memory of all of them.
Right.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah. I'm very inspired by terrible art. I don't know if you know this, but if I
Okay.
want to write a movie, if I watch a great movie, it does inspire me because it's like, oh shit. I mean, there's no way, like that is so amazing and all the things that had to come together to make that but if I watch a piece of shit, I will write an entire script just because I'm mad. So
Okay, fair enough.
So I was like writing jokes for not the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and there's a very distinct style that everybody uses, which is like very jokey, and I don't write in that style. So I was like, give me a bunch of bad jokes about these folks, and and it basically wrote kind of like really cheesy, lame
Like
political
dad
jabby
joke?
stuff. Yeah, like dad joke level stuff. And it just inspired me to write my own. It worked really well. So, okay, he goes, a lot of people are talking about AI. They don't know what it is, but they're talking. Under my leadership, we are making sure America is #1 in artificial intelligence, not China, not Europe, US, and a flag emoji. Today, I'm launching a historic new plan to teach our amazing young people, the best kids in the world, all about AI, computers, math, even robotics, very cool stuff. We're giving them the tools to win in the 21st century and beyond. The future belongs to America, not to woke Silicon Valley weirdos or Chinese copycats. We will work with
That's
schools,
awesome.
the good ones, not the failing ones, tech companies, the ones that didn't ban me, and amazing American innovators to make sure our youth are trained to lead, not follow. When I was in office, we had the best economy, the best military. Now we're building the best brains. Now, this is how we beat China, with smart, strong, pro-America kids who understand AI and won't be fooled by the radical left's agenda. We will make American intelligence great again. Mega? Question mark?
That's actually really good. They changed AI to American intelligence. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Want a version that adds more Elon, SpaceX, quantum, World War III flavor? It gives me. See that? It has.
Sure.
It has. Yeah. Why not? Right. So, yeah, it's pretty funny. So
Okay.
that
So
as it goes.
that's more like the EOs that we've been hearing is more like what that ChatGPT
That's
did.
basically what it is.
This one actually is kind of okay. It sounds like something Biden would do, or Obama would do. It sounds reasonable the way it's laid out.
Yeah. Also, it's not particularly perfect. Can I show you something real quick? That's pretty funny. I was like, I need a thumbnail for us, and I was like,
Okay.
I wasn't very specific. It's a little adorable. Like
So
this is
am I on the left and you're on the right?
Yes.
Who's
I
Al
would
and
say
who's Rob?
I would say this is you. I think that's me over in the corner. I think I'm the robot and
No,
you're the
I
actual.
think that they would think of you as Hal the robot, or Hal
maybe
the
so.
computer. Excuse me.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
me
you're probably
as
right.
Rob the robot.
Robot. That's
That
probably
makes more
true.
sense.
All right. Well, I told it that I didn't want any pictures of us because its first generation was this. I don't know who we are.
Gosh. You're not too bad, but I'm way
Oh,
off. Maybe
okay.
not.
I look
I don't know.
I look like the lead singer of Creed's stuntman.
Wait, did
With
you give
all
any reference or
No, I just said
no?
I need
Okay.
a thumbnail for my show Houseparks Mega Worldwide Friday Eye with Rob Glenn, and it should be fun and have images of robotics and computers and circuits. And I thought it would just be kind of silly because I wasn't looking for something serious. I was just testing it. And and
This is the generic Hal and the generic Rob, but
yeah,
it
exactly.
knew long hair, so it has to know
Yeah, oh
what you
yeah,
look
yeah.
like.
Yeah, well, it knows my show, and it's had, I haven't like uploaded transcripts or done any of the other tools that we're talking about that are available because I'm too busy. I have the interesting thing is there's so much like to absorb in terms of the work that I do
Yes.
that I spend a lot of time on input. I spend a lot of time, and because summaries don't help me. Summaries like AI summaries that people look to don't help me. I'm the guy you would need to summarize. I'm the man who knocks. I'm the guy who knocks, in terms of information. So I have to listen to the whole fucking thing. And so I can't skip a step because it's the details that matter. And so far, most of these things are great at because they're designed for people on the go who just want to
Right.
slightly, like a quick summary of what's going on. And if they want to go back and look, they can. But I need the opposite of that. I need that, and so I have used it a couple of times on like executive orders and stuff going, you see any loopholes in this that are in effect, that will create an obvious glaring problem? And so I've talked about that in a few areas, and that's what led me to my kind of realization. And it was so simple while talking about these things that a budget is a law. Like in those simple terms, that was a lightning bolt moment I had.
By the way, have you been hearing Elizabeth Warren's language lately?
No.
Go look at some clips of Elizabeth Warren, and they sound a little bit like your budget is a law stuff. I'm just saying.
It's getting around. It's getting around. I'm everybody's side piece, backdoor man, political things. And by the way, thank you guys for watching. All you A-listers out there who I know you are, and you stare at me across the restaurant when we're in LA, and some of you wink. It's adorable. And I know why. I know, and it's great. And you don't, if you want to come over and give me a hug, it's okay, but you don't have to. And then the same thing with the people in DC who are watching right now. I know you're there. I've heard you're there. I've heard, like, I've gotten your messages, and I'm like, it's so funny because there are some people like Brian Karam and others who have direct contact with these people, and they talk to them all the time, like real press people. I always get these like bank shots where through Brian or other people, they'll go, oh, hey, by the way, I was talking to so-and-so and they saw your thing about this, or they saw your video on this, and they were like, they're like, I can't watch what's going on, and it's my job to watch some of these right-wing media guys. I can't do it without Hal. So they'll pass that along, which is really awesome. Glad to help. Just subscribe. Use your burner account. I don't care. Help me get my numbers up. That said, Rob Glenn, that was a simple example of actual work on the ground that is being done, I would argue, in spite of Trump. That this stuff is happening. This stuff is happening, and there is as far as AI is concerned, they can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's fucking over. We are headed in that direction. There is no going back. It's just a matter of implementation and best practices, and I suppose maybe some protections and walls and cybersecurity elements that everybody's freaking out about, because on both sides they don't know, even the people using it. China's got as many weaknesses if they rely on their models as we would if we relied on ours, and they know it. So one of the things, there's a mutual assured destruction that is like, it's like if you had nukes, but like Vladimir Putin, you don't know if they're actually aimed where you think they are, and you don't know if they'll just blow up in the silo because there are parts missing. And you can't know until you hit the button. So, and there are a lot of these like high-end AI things that they're doing, which is why we're still seeing mostly phishing attacks when it comes to cybersecurity breaches or the equivalent.
the majority of things that are break-ins are because of phishing or honeypotting.
Right, exactly. Which explains a lot of what's going on in fucking Pete Hegseth's
Yeah.
world.
So this is what you're articulating is why I started calling this stuff fan fiction. And
Yes.
it's a paradox because he's the president of the United States, and like all of our lives we've considered that to be the most powerful person in the world, and having like this great effect on all things that happen. And he has a large impact, but he also doesn't. And and those cracks are sort of being shown. Like, for instance, he's shown in his actions a lot of cracks in our system that allow for you to like
Yes.
weave through the time, and do stuff that nobody thought you could do before, but we never actually had laws about it. We never had really police for it, right? The
Yes.
opposite is also true, that he's doing these things in these EOs and just tweeting and doing all this stuff that actually don't have any power of law. So you can ignore it. And people are ignoring it.
That's
so
right.
when it doesn't have like a direct effect, like you're trying to get a person from a foreign country that he put in a gulag, like you can just ignore it, right? And that's why I'm calling it fan fiction, because a lot of people are just ignoring him and moving on.
There are a couple. We've talked about AI agents or any of these things that are just kind of starting up and what that's going to amount to or whatever. And Microsoft announced this week, and this is kind of, I would say, along the lines of what I'm talking about, the democratization of technology. And they call it frontier firms. And they said 2025 is the year of the frontier. The year the frontier firm is born. And what they say a frontier firm is, I want to start a company, but I don't want any employees. The accounting is done by AI. The product management is done by AI. The marketing team is AI. It is a minimum shoestring of human beings, a skeleton crew. But the enormity of the company, Microsoft has this report called Frontier Firms, and this is their thing. The frontier firm is on the cutting edge of AI. You're talking about a company as big as Microsoft or as big as Meta or Apple, and on the personnel side is completely artificial, is all done by AI, and this is their kind of push for this. It says, we are entering a new reality, one in which AI can reason and solve problems in remarkable ways. This intelligence on tap, which is their other little phrase, intelligence on tap, will rewrite the rules of business and transform knowledge work as we know it. Organizations today must navigate the challenge of preparing for an AI-enhanced future where AI agents will gain increasing levels of capability over time that humans will need to harness as they redesign their business. Human ambition, creativity, and ingenuity will continue to create new economic value and opportunity as we redefine work and workflows. And the big one is workflows. So the first step in this is there are 3 steps between me and my task. Can I eliminate one of them? Now, that might eliminate a person, or it might, at first, eliminate time. The step isn't a job yet, because my company isn't big enough to hire anybody for that job. It just means we have to sit around and do it. Now you don't have to sit around and do it anymore. You can skip that step. So that's the first, I think, the tightening of workflows using AI that don't replace a person yet are the easiest ones to do right away, because they're just under efficiencies. It's just under productivity, right? And everybody's going to be looking at those. The next one will be, well, we can get rid of this person that we have. Fuck, do we even need that department? Will we ever need that department again? Will, at some point, AI file my taxes, and so I don't need a bookkeeper because it will do it automatically, and it will know the tax code completely in a way that a tax professional couldn't possibly stay up to date or know every aspect of it. It will just have it to draw from. And maybe there's an accountant that works with it because you need to be certified, but you only need one person to sign off on it, and you're paying that person for them to sign off on these things. But the work itself happens like that.
I mean, what you're describing is the same calculation that happens with outsourcing anything, any
Yes.
task.
Right.
So if I'm starting a company, do I hire an accountant or do I outsource an accountant? Do I get QuickBooks or do I hire a firm to do it for me? The thing you mentioned there, I have a lot of paperwork or I do a lot of drawings or I do a lot of this or that. I'll use a firm in India to do that. That's what we were asking, or that's what people were asking maybe 5 to 10 years ago. And now they're saying, well, we won't go to India. We'll use AI.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of the jobs, and this is worth restating too, is that a lot of the thing about like AI is going to take jobs in the United States. No, it isn't. Not right now. What it's going to do is replace the jobs that were outsourced. They aren't just like we're talking about, talking about automation in factories. When those jobs come back, especially like customer service jobs that went to, phone banking and shit like that went to India in particular. Once AI can do that, and it largely can now, most of it, it started reshoring, and that job dropped off precipitously. And so those people started like watch farms for bullshit YouTube channels and Rumble. That's what those people shifted to. Just buy 35 phones, put them on a wall, and they all watch the same video. And there's a person has to click on them because that's the rules at YouTube and Rumble, so they can lie to their investors and tell them that they have a lot more traffic than they do, right? Don't ask me how I know that, Russell Brand. But so that, we're reshoring those jobs, but they won't be done by people. They will simply be an expense that American companies don't have to spend overseas. So it's just dollars that aren't flowing out the door would be, I guess, the only upside of it. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to take a lot of time to filter through all of that stuff. And that's essentially changing your supply chain. Like you could think about service-based outsourcing as also being part of your supply chain, because it's a function that must happen inside of your company, right?
Right.
So without that, you wouldn't run a company. So like in this case, the expert that you hire is, like you said, they're like looking over what the outsourced agency did and approving it.
Right.
And that's not any different than what we're doing now. I mean, companies in the US outsource almost everything. So a lot, I shouldn't say almost everything, but they outsource a lot of things more than you think.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. Let's see if I can bring this up as well. Microsoft is also doing this thing. This is all part of their future, the forward firms or whatever, the frontier firms.
Frontier firms.
Frontier firms is what they're calling them. And this is brand new this week or whatever, but they are doing the hardest part, I think you and I have seen, is that there's primary implementation, which we'll see right away. We'll see people going, well, this has always been inefficient, and if we could have found a better way to do it, we'd have done it by now, and now we can. So let's just build an LLM that specifically does this task, or license one that's already designed for it that does it really well, and we'll start using that. But the other side is like not understanding where the gaps in what you can do, it's available. And it goes to that like manual idea that I talk about all the time, where I have music gear that if I had any idea how to coordinate what the jacks did in a way that was new and creative, that even the designer may not have even thought of, because they can't picture the whole circuit board in their head because they worked on product implementation and artist relations or whatever. So they never think to bring it up or assume that you could do it. Or if it's possible, they put a jack in that, like, in the future we'll have an update where we can use that. We just couldn't do it yet. They can know, like, you could have it write a piece of software and update the device itself almost at this point. It's a little nutty that way. So getting up to speed with things that you almost asking it, like sitting there going, okay, this is what I do for a living. These are my frustrations. How can I solve these frustrations that I have? in the work and the that I do, and it will start to see gaps in, some of it'll be stupid at first, but once you dig down, just like it's almost like a business therapist is my way. Like it's like if you had and this is what consultants do. Then there goes the end of consultancy, for in large part, or I won't say the end of it. It's the beginning of consultancy for mid and small level companies. We couldn't afford a consultant, and now you can.
Well, yeah. So one of the things that I'll give an example of something. Like I was thinking about like starting to think about doing grants for some of the work that we're doing.
Sure.
And I know that it's a little bit of a black box. Like there are definitely consultants out there that help you with grants, and they know a lot. Just like hiring a lawyer, they know a lot about the law because they figured it out over time and did it. So I don't have enough money to do that. That's why I need grants, right?
Right.
So I started asking ChatGPT information about applying for grants and things like that. And I was able to sort of get to a focused understanding of the process. So just in that first consultation, like you would spend a lot of time first looking for the expert. You don't even know if you can trust that expert because you don't know anything about it. So the use of ChatGPT in this sense was not replacing the consultant that I still might hire. It was getting my head wrapped around what I would even talk to the consultant about and whether or not I could trust what they're saying back to me, right?
Yeah.
So then the choice is, do I spend my time using this tool to then go and apply for grants, or do I hire somebody else to do it because I got 25 other things I got to do, right? So those are, again, still the same equations that you always have to try to figure out. Do I do it myself or do I hire somebody else to do it? And to that regard, what I'm talking about now, there's a lot of back and forth in the chat about maybe I'll call it like creative. I'm going to address it because it's been going for a while. Like the jingle that you have at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Of your show, AI generated. So there's some people that think that that's not great. Other people are saying,
well,
it's
here's
fine.
the thing.
So
Right,
let's talk about that for a second, because I think it's important. Go ahead, because that jingle is not AI created. You created the jingle. You made it.
Yes, I wrote this one. So I used like arpeggiators and stuff that are available to me in Logic, and some like the sort of verse chorus box style. They have this new way of doing like electronic music, and I was playing around with it, and I was like, I want my own Fletch theme. I want my own sort of. It was like my first draft of a Beverly Hills Cop theme for myself, and so it has that kind of the theme throughout it. That
So let's pause here for a second.
Yeah.
You made this. You manually, physically did this in your studio, right? I want that to be stated, because I know that that's true.
That's right.
Now, describe to me the process by which you then created the alternatives or the variations.
So I took my original piece of music and I posted it in there, and then I requested specific styles of it. And the first one, the reason I started doing it was orchestral. I cannot afford an orchestra. I am never going to be able to afford an orchestra while I'm still doing this show as is. Like there's not a point where I'm going to be able to get together with a Milwaukee Symphonic and get them to, and get somebody, by the way, I mean, I could ask Kip Winger and he would probably do it, to chart my song as this kind of thing. Okay. And so I started out doing this. And that is simply, if I had string sounds in my keyboard that were more believable, I would have just taken the MIDI version of what I had created with the other stuff and changed the sounds so that it's playing it like a violin. But the bowing and all that kind of stuff just wouldn't sound like, it would sound kind of like 80s synth string artificial. It just wouldn't sound right. Okay. So in these available ones, I was like, I'm going to use this only for stuff that I view as music that I would need for promotion or that kind of stuff that is way outside my pay grade, but that I would not make myself. So if it mattered to me that I must have this orchestral thing because I'm fucking Beethoven and I need to write this thing out, and I wrote it as a synth piece, but it needs to be done as strings, I would fucking get sheet music and draw it all out because that mattered to me. But it doesn't. It's meant to be an alternative for comedy's sake, done relatively quickly. So the slapdash nature of it has value in the same way that I have to use an arpeggiator to play the I can't play that because I'm not that good a keyboard player. One of the other things I could do is I can slow the tempo down to like 1/3 or a quarter of the speed that it's going and go like that, and then speed it back up and it goes. People do that all the time. One of the other things you might hear on an album is really high background vocals on like go listen to Living on a Prayer or You Give Love a Bad Name, and there's these high, almost squeaky, inhuman ones. You know how they do that? They dropped the tape speed when they were using tape. They lowered the speed by about half, and they sang it at octave along with the slowed down version. When they sped it back up, it has that chipmunking effect and makes it very high. So stacked in with a bunch of stuff, it just makes it sound full. Okay, is that cheating? Is that not learning to sing that way? Is that, not hiring a singer that can sing an impossible mouse note? No. It's using the technology to get the result you want within the confines of your ability to do it on the budget that you have and the available funds and people. Yeah. Right. So I went through and I took that one, and when I got the orchestral one, I started testing some, and I got a like 80s theme kind of one, and that was closer to my original thing. Like if I took my song into a studio with real musicians and they played keyboards and that kind of stuff, they would come up with something along those lines, maybe. Okay. The other thing I did was this one, which I put in as detective, like 80s detective movie, like montage music, as the detective looks for clues and talks to witnesses. And so this is when you would do in the 80s, if you'd see a montage of the character talking to people, and it'd be kind of funny and kind of not, or people rousting people and asking them if they've shown them a picture or whatever. That would be this scene or whatever, where they're just like, trucking down the street or whatever. So and that's the same theme and everything, but it made a 2-minute and 24 version of it, 24-second version of it. That for this show is fine. Now, if I was making a movie, I would take my demo of the song and I would hire the musicians that I know to make that soundtrack. That matters to me.
This is the part I want to talk about. Yeah. So, and because I'm kind of sort of generalizing a lot of comments that are coming back around. But
yes.
This is Hal's work. It is. And I don't see what you did as any different than putting a Snapchat filter on to do makeup, like to put makeup on your face.
Totally.
Right? Like you effectively used a filter, and we aren't that far away from music editing software already being able to do. Before AI, it was already able to do a lot of things like you just described.
Right.
It was able to modify it in such a way that you wouldn't have to go redo it, right?
Yeah.
And so the important thing is if, like, for the application, you just wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't possible to make it at the quality you wanted, you just wouldn't have done it, right?
Yeah.
But also, like you just said, if you were Fox News and had a budget, you wouldn't use AI. You would go hire the orchestra because you had the budget, but you don't have the budget. So you're never going to, like, nobody's ever going to convince me that I'm not an artist if I use a filter because I can't afford the other thing. Right. Like or the thing that I'm doing doesn't have the viewership or the income generating potential to even make it worth doing. And you would think I was crazy if I was like, I just went and hired a whole orchestra so that I could like have a different ringtone on my cell phone. Like
Right.
you just wouldn't do
Right.
it.
Well, and that's okay. Here, another great example of it is there's what I would call is like those temporary skills. So there are things that I
Yeah.
need in this, in the short order that do not affect my greater work that I need to get over this hump. And the same thing would be true of graphics. Like that, like I just made these in
Absolutely.
AI and then cut them out. Like they didn't come like this, and you can see that my cutout isn't that great. But I just went through with in Photoshop and took out the
Yeah.
because I kept asking for one with green screen and it wouldn't do it. And then when it did, it would have green bleed into there. And so now it's probably
Yeah.
better. I've had these for a little bit. But
If I ever, by the way, if I ever have the time, I'm going to make you a professionally produced thing.
Thank you.
And by the way, everybody, Hal's not going to pay me to do it. I'm
Right.
just going to do it.
yeah, because it drives him crazy.
But
No,
until
yes.
until that time.
So in the interim, like we were doing, I'll have stuff come up about
Yeah.
Trump and stuff, and the turnover rate. I deal with this with the comedy of Trump all the time. Is that by the time you're on your feet with stuff, the story's over because the next
Right.
horror is on its way. So if, as a comedian, if you want to jump in on something, it's one of the reasons why everybody uses
Hello there!
like little clips in their things, why Steph uses them or whatever, because that
Right.
instant kind of cultural, like I don't have time to explain a culturally significant thing, impersonate it for you each time and build us back up to it. You have to use something that is so direct that goes right to the heart.
Hey, you want to make $14 the hard way?
Right? These kind of things help you jump to the front of the line on those things, right? So in terms of, let me go to the themes thing. So I have some like when this first came out, I was like, okay, what can I not afford to do? And not only
Right.
can I not afford to do it, I wouldn't even know where to find the people to do it in the first place. And what I wanted was a 1970s WKRP radio style,
The House Sports Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
which is just ridiculous. Okay, so and all I needed was that 12-second blurb, and I'm not going to be able to go into a studio and find people to do that in particular. And if I did write it, it would be a couple of weeks and about $5,000, and it might not work. It might not work out.
Yeah,
Like
and let me pause you there for a second. Let's say
Yeah.
you did actually find someone who could produce something like that, but you had to like figure out how to describe to them what to eat, where to even start.
yes,
You could use that jingle and
Right.
have it done in the future when you
Yes.
when you had the budget to do it. And
Yeah,
you'd be
I
like,
like this,
start with
but-
this,
yeah,
but do this. And that's how
Yes.
you would work with that group, right? So it's not a matter of like the creation. That's a
Right.
sketch. It's no
Yes.
different than a sketch on a piece of paper that you
That's
bring
right.
to a professional engineer to like make real, right?
yeah,
So and that's the way we have to start thinking about these things.
right.
And all of the anxiety about ownership, that isn't taken care of at the tool. It's taken care of in the legislation and at OpenAI in terms of
Right.
like how they trained it and Meta and all that. Like you've got to tackle those problems.
You and I both
not
had
with
the same thing
tool,
where
but with the
yeah,
makers.
yeah, and the output, not the previous stuff, because there are so many I want to say I'm gonna try see if I can find there's a book I want to say called Good Artists Borrow, Great Artists Steal. That's allegedly a quote from Pablo Picasso. And I don't know that that's an actual one.
I'm not sure.
But it's been around for a long time. But good artists copy, great artists steal has been this at one point there was an interview with Gene Simmons where he was talking to in the song Alive, the guitar McCready from Pearl Jam says, I totally lifted the solo from a song called She. It's in the song. It's in Pearl Jam's Alive. It's in the outro solo. And he just lifted it from Ace Frehley. And he's like, I felt like I should tell you guys that. And Gene said, go listen to this Doors song, because that's where Ace stole it from. And there's a Doors song, na 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 na. That's it. Like, he literally played it note for note, and this guy played it note for note, lifting it from that thing and kind of furthering it along. Now, each one adds a little flavor style to it. Somebody can play that riff and it doesn't feel good at all. It just feels like they're imitating something they don't get. And then other people lift it, and it fits what they're doing, and it has the style of what they're doing, and it sits very well artistically in there, which it wouldn't if that person didn't have the skill to put it there, if they didn't have the taste and to add it to that. So but that.
And now you're getting into the live performance aspect of these things versus the recorded and the produced versions.
That's right. And that even, happened, on the regular all the time. You'd hear songs all the time where you're like, oh, they were in the studio next door while we were working on our album, and you can hear their bass line through the wall, and our bass player started playing along with it. He wasn't playing what they were playing, but it ended up being in the same key and the same tempo, and we built this song off of, Michael Jackson's doing Beat It, and that turned into, a Judas Priest song because the bass player was just hearing the thump through the wall, right? That kind of stuff is always going to happen, always has. And I also want to say to the chat who's worried about this, I totally get that. I like the idea that that artificial stuff is not the point. What we're talking about here again is that is the quickening that you are allowed to get between idea and prototype that a lot of big money endeavors always have. They have plenty of money to prototype it. The movie Brave, the Disney film Brave, and The Incredibles, both of those movies were made to test hair. Do you know that? That they were like they have these big movies. They know they're making Toy Story 3 and they're going to spend a shit ton of money on this, but they're trying to get the hair to work better. And instead of spending $14 million on people just sitting around doing nothing, they budget a movie and say, hey, while you're at it, we'll give you this money, but the hair's got to look awesome. And in the process of making both of those movies, and you'll notice if you look in The Incredibles, one of the biggest scenes is where they fall into the water, and the kids and the mom come up out of the water, and their hair is wet, and it's glistening and all that kind of stuff. Okay, that was a specific order from Disney. Figure out how to do that. All of it looks like shit when we do that. Whenever we try to make wet hair, when we're CGing it, nobody gets it right. Bust your ass. You got 6 months. Make this look right. And the same thing with Brave. Now make it long and flowy and fluffy, and we want it to be able to cast. We want light to be able to cast through different tiers of hair color. We don't want it to be one jet black color or one blonde thing with maybe some a little bit of texture. We want to be able to see multitudes of colors. So we need a red-haired protagonist where her hair goes all the way from bright red to auburn to like yellow almost to golden through her hair, and we want the light to be able to pass through it. And instead of just assigning a bunch of people, they said, create a movie where that looks gorgeous. You want to do your movie? Awesome. We will fund it. But the hair's got to look fantastic. And that's what they did. And so instead of just prototyping, they took what was available and they built on it and made art while they were learning this thing. They demoed the art. And even then, it wasn't as good as it looks now. But it was extraordinary, the steps they took forward on it, right? So so chat, like the idea is that you develop a skill while this is happening, and I have to say, it's done wonders for some of the language stuff that I've been working on. It's done wonders, because the idea that I'm gonna find somebody to speak Gaelic with me every day is ridiculous, right? Unless I move to Ireland, which maybe if I do have to flee, that's where I'm fucking going. Right.
Yeah, I mean, part of this is this is happening at the same time as the news makes it feel as if our legal system is kind of collapsing, and there's a lot of stories about big entities kind of swallowing little entities and things
Right.
like that. So with our anxiety is built around all of the things kind of happening at the same time. And so, but again, like AI is not going anywhere. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fundamental new way of thinking about how to do do this thing it's doing,
Yes.
machine learning,
Yeah.
and it's gonna become more and better. Not like nobody's getting rid of it. Nobody's gonna
Mm-mm.
regulate it away. The regulation needs to be in the sort of training and the monetization of the model itself, and
Yeah.
then in the use of the things it creates,
Right.
and you're responsible for that thing if you create it, not
Right.
the AI. It's the person who monetizes it.
Right. And again, the democratization of not only just the technology for the sake of the average person. Let's just you know me in robotics, and I'm a
Yep.
big fan, and I love the advances that are happening there. But a lot of what I love is not just that they've added AI to the Boston Dynamics dogs, but they don't operate the body of the dog yet. So the dog is still
Okay.
on a programmed walking thing, like a Roomba. It walks around,
Yep.
goes to certain stations. So you can get a tour of the Boston Dynamics studios from one of these dogs. It's great. It's hilarious and it's impressive and all this thing. But the body of the dog is trained like a Roomba. It goes down this pathway. It has some ability to not bump into people because it has LiDAR on it, but it's effectively told, go into this room, wait till this program ends, and then when it ends, go to the next room and open the door and do this and go through. Okay, and that part's very impressive. And then there's a ChatGPT voice assistant that has a pre-programmed tour guide thing pattern that it goes through, just like a tour guide. And it also can interact. Any questions? If we don't have any questions, we'll move on. It's separate. It does not tell the dog to move. It says, I'm done. And then the dog moves to the next station that it is programmed to go to. So it is not about the AI going, I want to be free, and breaking out and the dog runs through the streets and whatever. And that's what everybody's afraid of. They are separate right now. Okay, that separation is going to end sometime in the next 15 months, period. Somewhere, that's how it's happening. And once it's done, it's done. But the primary separation that's going on as far as use is where the law goes. So it doesn't matter if your car runs over somebody because you forgot to put on the parking brake or you were drunk or whatever. It's still manslaughter. It's still depraved indifference. You still parked your car up on a hill and it rolled down and you saw the person and you didn't run to stop your car. Your car hit someone, they died. It's on you. And that's where the laws around these things won't change. I don't care if you set up an AI to automate your bills and it cheated on your bills and you knew it was happening. That's still participating in a crime, even if you just had your fucking Rain Man cousin counting cards for you. It's still a crime, right?
Right.
It's no matter what you're using, okay? And the law will have to reflect the interpersonal behavior of this and the responsibility of the owner of the technology. And once that happens, then you will see, that stuff will continue to curtail the stuff, and it gets out of hand. It will be easier to shut down and dissuade these programs because of fail safes and other stuff than it would be if you just went, I don't know, it just decided to do what it was going to do when you knew well. You had you had the ability to just say plausible deniability, right? Okay, so
Right.
but let me show you something real quick, which is kind of adorable, and I'll talk over it because I won't play this guy's video or whatever. But my new robotic head design is legally confusing. So that's the title of this video. Okay. And this guy, I've been watching his stuff for a little while. You can buy his eyeballs, by the way. It's like Blade Runner. He had these made in bulk for his designs because he's trying to make these
glass?
faces. Huh? Yeah, they're glass, but they have a thing in the back of them so you can put a camera in if you want. So he's patented all these things.
So it's a product that he's producing that he sells as the eye that you place in your own robot.
Yeah, right. And you could put your camera behind it and it acts as a lens for it, but it looks like an eyeball and that kind of stuff. So anyways, this guy talks about how he was designing these things and he created this silicon face that he overlays it on this head frame that it uses just silicon, and then he uses magnets on the outside of it to stick it to the rotor things underneath it so that its face moves like it's supposed to. So that was his way. Instead of gluing it, which pinches and looks ugly, he decided, I'm going to use, and here's this guy doing this in his fucking shop. And you can see from the ridges on this plastic, it's all 3D printed, and good for him. Like this guy doing this alone, this guy wanting to do this and being able to do this, and he's made a bunch of these faces, and he was like, he tried to make them he watched videos on how to make silicone faces and like face masks like this one. That robot we've seen a bunch of times, Sophie, is, like millions of dollars are spent on that design, making it work, the AI behind it, all this kind of stuff. This guy is making an equivalent one in his fucking apartment using Blender, which is free.
Yeah.
And he's designing all these pieces. Those are the magnets on the outside of it. And he did all these kind of things. So he's been working on this design. These are his like patent drawings. There you go. You can see them as they go by. But he makes a full standardized list of how these things are working. But the idea being that this time he's going to add the magnetic parts into the silicone. So this is this dude pouring silicone in his own house after doing his prototype design where the robot things would hold on there. And then he slowly but surely, and now he's like Squarespace is paying for this. He's using Arduinos to control these things. He walks everybody through it. I mean, this is straight up an educational video that you would have to go to fucking MIT to just have somebody with practical understanding of how this talk you through it. And this guy's YouTube channels are online. You could just watch him over and over again. One of my favorite moments in Real Genius is during the montage part where he keeps going to class, and increasingly there are just tape recorders in the classroom, and because all the kids are just putting a tape recorder, taping it, listening to it later, and he's the only person in class taking notes, and then he comes in and the teacher's lecture is on tape. He's the only person in the room, okay? But there's value in it. All those other kids realized you should just record it and listen to it, and then you can listen to it again and again and again and again and again. So here he goes. He added the magnets to this face with his idea being that he would eventually work, and this is like really, this is the Disney face that they were working on. His is way better than theirs, is his argument. And he's right. And he made it using, readily available stuff. You can see that he uses flexible nylon for the eyebrows so that at some point the eyebrows will be able to move, that kind of stuff. And my point is that everything this guy is using would have only been available at like Industrial Light and Magic 10 years ago. Period.
Yep.
Like he would have had to get a scholarship to intern there to have access to the stuff, and he still wouldn't have had at that time a 3D printer that he would have access to prototype the parts like he has and create all these things. And this he can now do in his fucking living room, and that is both impressive and terrifying if you think of what bad people can do with technology and good people can do with technology. But to me, the good will always outweigh the bad in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And like anybody can do this stuff. You just go do it. Like,
yes.
And so it's only going to accelerate. Like, so AI is just like the scratching the surface, like the change in machine learning. There's technologies that are equally as impactful as AI is to individual domains of work that when you combine them all together, AI is kind of like the glue. It like helps you sort of navigate those things and figure out like maybe how to combine them or even learn about them in the first place. Right.
Right.
Well, yeah.
It's that temporary step is the most valuable thing. This is what I can like say to everybody is that if you want to get from A to C, B has always been a problem, and now it doesn't have to be. You may still get to C organically everywhere you want to, but the B step that other people had, and that's the thing, like, the AI tutor thing, which is what Trump is chasing, and we talk about how Claude EDU and OpenAI has ChatGPT EDU that they're introducing in universities. That if I wanted my kid to be able to have a tutor in something, well, frankly, I can do it. I would take funds that I allocate for one thing in our life, and I would reallocate those funds if he needed it. Luckily, he's a self-starter in these areas, so I don't have to. He's tutoring other kids. But if I did, and I was, especially if I was the house Sparks that grew up in Kentucky and never left, there's no fucking way. There's no way. A government program is the only way I'm ever going to have a tutor for my kid. And if I'm waiting in a red state for a tutor program to be set up for underprivileged kids, for my kid to get a chance at any future being able to do in STEM, for example, I'm fucked. I'm just out of luck. Forget it. It was never a possibility. And now a free ChatGPT or a free Gemini or a free Claude account is that thing. And it's only going to get better at that stuff.
Yes. And we'll go back to my thing, which is it's already good enough to do way more than you can even fathom.
Glenn 99% rule. Yeah. A 99% rule.
Yeah. If everything stopped today, it would still be world changing. Like if it just stayed where it is today and was used appropriately, it will be used how people come up with how to use it, because that's the sort of open-ended Wild West of it. It's world changing now.
Yes.
So just you got to get on board and deal with it and use it so that it's not so scary. And move on with it, move forward with it. I mean.
Well, and again, this is where what I would like to see and what I'm going to sort of focus my use of it on, and we will talk more about this in person when I'm in Chicago next week, and we will be able to do this show as live if you're around and not in the middle of a giant move, which is possible. I understand.
Yeah. Do you want to do it from my studio again?
Yeah, that'd be great.
On Friday, or do you have another place for it? Yeah, you can do that.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll be getting in at butt in the morning. So, and I won't be able to check into my hotel till later. So I will. Yeah.
Okay. I usually wake up at butt in the morning, so you can just come on over. Excellent.
Perfect. And then I'll just conk out on your floor under a desk till then. But so, but to me, campaigns for causes, campaigns for politicians, people running for office that can't get the big donor money can eliminate maybe 80% of the expenditure of a real campaign between now and the midterms. This is all going to happen. This is all happening now. You could arguably do it now if you spent the extra time. If you hired one person and their whole thing was how do we AI all this stuff, you would save yourself that, and AI just becomes your greatest volunteer. And I think that's how things should work anyways, politically. And again, big companies and stuff will have access to all this stuff, but they'll to justify their budgets and all this kind of stuff, they're going to tend to use humans for a lot of this stuff, and you will be on an even playing field with people with a lot of money and a lot of donor money and a lot of Elon Musk money I have
a really good Rob Glenn subversive idea for how to combat the Elon Musk paying people to vote stuff.
I'm excited.
I'll share it with you on Friday.
I insist. So to me, it is the democratization of skill, and the way people need to think about it is temporary skill. Something, if you would ever hire someone to do it and they are outside the amount you can pay for it right now, think of it as an interim step. Think of it as, eventually I want a person in this office because I would like to have human creativity in this process. But as far as the mechanics of this job, I just need it done. And I can't afford to do it myself, and I don't know how to do it myself. So that's what it's for. So any B grade skill you would need, you can skip that step on your way from A to C. And there's no shame in it, because giant companies do it by outsourcing work overseas. They could not pay enough customer service people in the United States to answer phones, speaking English, talking to people, so they hired a bunch of people in India to do it. They did exactly what we're talking about. They just took advantage of low-income people in a foreign country. I would argue this is more moral. because
Yeah, absolutely.
it never engages in that, like, hey, I'm gonna, and I have an incentive to keep you poor so that the cost of this never goes up, right?
Yeah,
Which
and
is a big part.
I mean, most things are going to have to change at that fundamental level for us
Right.
to like move through this, and we like it's going to happen, whether it happens kicking and screaming or
Mm-hmm.
or think ahead and try to plan for it. It's still gonna happen.
Right.
um the like you say, you like change, you're replacing the outsourced with the sort of AI insourced, or you're prototyping the person who you'll hire in the future. But the person you'll hire in the future, if you're successful, is probably going to be running the AI type of workflow that you've built, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you still, like, a lot of people think of this as like this, there's going to be this like Terminator level, Skynet level, like just everything just is happening. It still takes people, just
Mm-hmm.
like the robot factories that we talk about. It takes
Yeah.
people to run the robots, and
Yeah.
the numbers are such that you can hire almost everybody in America. You could be at full employment in America if those people were in manufacturing, effectively like maintaining and tending the robotic manufacturing base.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough people to do it. We could absolutely do it, and everybody would be fully employed.
Right.
The question is then, where do those get sold, and what money is used to buy them, right? So
Right.
we're taking this sort of like large globalized supply chain, and we're almost like being forced right now by policy to try to figure out how to localize it.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution is robots and AI. And
Yeah.
they're saying it out loud. They're not even
Yes.
hiding it. They're
Right.
literally saying, "Don't worry, there's going to be robots coming."
Well, that's, I mean, Lutnick like said that out loud on the show, and I was like, hey guys, yeah, Trump's been bullshitting you. These manufacturing jobs are not coming back. If they build those big factories in Mexico and that they were building, and they're going to build them here, there's like 9 people working in those fucking things. Like
Yes.
from the fabrication shop to the paint shop, there's literally like a person in charge of the floor. And that's only if something goes drastically wrong. They sit there like Homer Simpson in a nuclear reactor, just with their feet up on the console for the most part. And if they do anything, they go, okay, this could be more efficient on this side. It keeps hanging up, or there's a pause that it gets stuck in. So let's talk to the coder and get this fixed.
Yeah,
Like that's what they're
you're
doing.
basically, yeah, you're tending, you're optimizing, I mean, and that's a job.
Yeah, just like
And-
being a
and what
farmer
we're
is.
talking
I mean,
about-
it's like they're like. I mean, it's a lot more like agriculture than it is standard manufacturing, because farmers have
That's a good way to think about it.
check
Yeah.
the crop, make sure it's consistent. You're thinking way ahead to the end product. You're having to be patient with it, but you're also having to make sure that nothing happens. If there's a frost, if there's a problem, if there's an earthquake, if there's a if there's a power outage and it starts back up again, will it ruin a certain amount of the crop while it's sitting, or have we designed it to pause perfectly? Those kind of things. Like, they're going to work on all those kind of things because they'll have to, because life is messy and gooey. Look at all the spaceships in Star Wars versus Star Trek. That's one of the best things about Star Wars, is that, like, apparently they invented warp drive, but not the Roomba or car washes, so everything is grimy and covered in oil. But for real, life is messy. It requires a human intervention to keep it human, and we're never going to want to drop that for the most part, unless you're Elon Musk and you can't stand the inside of your own brain, which is our biggest problem in that crowd. Is that I have often flippantly referred to Google's search function as being autistic, in that it is designed by people who are on the spectrum for what they need to have their needs met, and their assumption about how other people have their needs met. And I don't mean that as a pejorative. It is a specific industry that caters to a specific zone of neurodiverse people, because they can sit there and they can code and they can, hyper focus on this. The same way a lead guitar player is a little bit on the spectrum. They have to be, because nobody is that intensely focused on something, develop a muscle memory skill, unless your part of your brain is willing to shut off the rest of the time. It's why neurodiversity in the brain is integral to all of human life. But when it comes to uniformity in tech, which is, if you're going to code, you're going to behave like this, and if you're going to behave like this, what you're going to want from life is not going to be the same as what everybody else wants. And what you're going to want is hyper consistency and a repetition, regular order you can count on. And so most of us, when we're looking for something, we don't want 19. If I go back on after I've looked at one particular story, I don't want my inbox filled with shit from that same story yesterday. I've moved on. It's the generalized theme I'm working on as a human being. I don't need to just, like, would you like to hear about this every day? Like, that's how those are designed, because of who designs them. And AI is very different from that. It is moving away much closer to the social interaction side of things than it is the hyper-focused Jolt Cola, borderline spectrum Matthew Broderick character from War Games who never learned how to swim because he just sits in his room all the time, and if it wasn't for the girl noticing him, he would have never noticed her. Like, that person designed an element of computers that we have all dealt with for a very long time. And that chapter is gone for the most part.
I mean, you displayed it in a pretty, I mean, we were joking around, but the idea that you could take a piece of text, like you paste it in and say, and literally tell it to stylize it based on just a person's name. Mm-hmm. And it nailed it. And of course, Trump has a lot of writing out there to go off of, but that is a type of translation. It's a conceptual translation, as opposed to like a verbal, one-to-one translation. And that's the part that people are still wrapping their heads around in terms of how to use it. Cause we're at a spot where, it's almost like Matrix, like where the guy sees the red dress in the ones and zeros, you're skipping, like the ones and zeros have to go through a process to create an image of the red dress, the woman in the red dress. And this guy sees past all the layers and goes right to the source. AI can allow for those things to happen. Like if a dog, like you mentioned the Boston Dynamics dog with AI as the communication tool. And then there's another computer in there essentially like with code that's essentially deciding what to do for it to walk. Right. Yeah. Like the AI has the ability, or an LLM has the ability to literally stream code written on the fly, which would then make the motors run. Yes. And then if you think about that, like why even have the code? Why not just send the electrical signals? So instead of writing code, you write the pattern of electrical signals. Like what I'm trying to talk about is like you're essentially eliminating steps in the middle. And we haven't even scratched the surface of that yet, but it's capable of doing it, and it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and I would argue that our focus, and I know that from an audience standpoint, compared to the rest of the stuff I talk about on this station, this is a very hyper-focused show, and there's a reason behind it. And the reason behind it is because you and I both know this is coming, and there's nothing changing it. And I want people to become comfortable with using it within the confines of a tool, in the same way that you would use an electric screwdriver, a screw gun, instead of a hand screwdriver for most of the things you're putting together. You just have to know to turn down the setting from drill to the lightest possible so that it doesn't strip things and it goes grrr when it's done. If you can just adapt to that part of it, your goal in life is not to become a master screwdriver where you have a perfect turn to your hand and you steady it properly. Right. That's not your goal. Your goal is to have the piece of furniture. Your goal is to sit down and have Christmas with your family on the couch you're putting together, or from IKEA, or whatever it is. The interaction is the important part. And the step between here and there doesn't need to be longer unless you want it to be. If you want to handcraft furniture, nothing is stopping you. And as a matter of fact, it will go, oh, if you want to handcraft furniture, we can talk about how You start that. What you might want to start doing is picking out pieces of wood, and then you're going to want to design them, and you're going to either need a lathe or something to take it down, and then this is the structure you're going to want to help, and it would walk you through it like an apprentice. But you would still do it yourself. And you would still go, I like this color wood. I like this fabric. I like those kind of things. And as you learned how to do it, just like anybody else learns how to do anything else, you would do that yourself. And unless you grew up in a family that did that, you would have never had access to someone who was patiently sitting by while you figure the fuck everything out. Yeah.
There's like, I mean, this happens across, like, I just thought of tomatoes, right? You can purchase tomatoes grown in a warehouse that's basically on an industrial
line.
scale. It's an industrial scale, tomato factory, and the tomatoes are even altered in such a way to make them grow in that factory better, right? But then you can also buy heirloom tomatoes right next to them at the store.
Yes.
And if you wanted to, you can buy seeds and grow them in your backyard.
Yes.
And so this is all the same. This all the same thing. It's just a different technology where it's like AI is not going to eliminate handmade furniture. In fact, it makes handmade furniture maybe more valuable.
Yes, it does. Right.
The skill of making the thing becomes more like a cottage industry and less of an IKEA that needs to go to China to have boards cut by a machine, right?
Yes.
Like, so the analogies or the metaphors they overlap, and AI is going to be the same thing as what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I have to say, those elements where there was a period where if you wanted a good Gibson guitar, there was only one place to get it, and that was from Gibson. And then the Chinese started knocking off Gibson guitars, and they're all over the internet. You go on eBay, you can buy, and it's the same wood. They buy it from the same forest in South America. It's the same everything. They may not be assembled as well. You might need to get the fretboard redressed or whatever, but it's not going to cost you 10 grand to get the fretboard redressed. You can take it to Guitar Center, and they'll do it for a couple $100. Less. I don't know what they fucking charge, but it won't be more than the price of the guitar. That's for damn sure. And the guitar costs $299, and you have access to a guitar as a guitar player that you never would have been able to lay your hands on unless you were fucking Slash from Guns N' Roses, spending label money, or you were born that year in 1945, and so you bought a Gibson 58 for $85, back then. Now you can. The come around on it, though, has been that because of that, it has cheapened what it means to just have one of those kind of one-offs. And there are these guys who are making, luthiers are blooming all over the place, hand carving wood guitars, paying them to order. They're not charging what Gibson used to charge, like 10 grand. They're charging 3, but it's a lot. But it's a special, one of a kind. And if a guitar player wants that suited and fitted to what they're playing, because it's their artistry, that luthier now can make a living doing that with their actual work in a way that the only way they would have been able to make a living at all would have been working for Gibson or working for Fender at some point before the factories were, moved or the designs were stolen, which is really what happened in China in particular. Like a lot of Kramers were made in South Korea and that kind of stuff, but not because it was cheaper, but because they did good work and they had great wood there. So that became a thing. But now people are like, okay, you can have anything you want. It's really cheap. You can learn to play on a great guitar. And then once you decide, I want the guitar of my life, instead of paying $10,000 or $50,000 or $120,000 for some one that was made in 1958 that there'll never be another one again, you can go to a luthier and go, hey, this is the design I want. Make me that. And it's within a price range on a mid-level that is extraordinary and was impossible, just like my Apple Mac 128K used to cost $3 grand when it came out, and a laptop from them is less than that now, and it's extraordinarily more powerful. It's what you do with it. It's what you do with it that matters, and what you're able to do with it is just getting closer to the heart. Because instead of going, fuck, I have this great idea for an app that I think would be fun and a game or something people can play together or whatever, but making it on my own, like, I don't even know, like, I want to make a board game. how the fuck do I make a board game? Like I know what the idea is, the theme of it is, but how do I get the dice made and shit like that? You can 3D print the dice. It won't cost you anything. You can make dozens of them. You can give them to your friends. You could make your own board game, print it at fucking FedEx, Kinko's or whatever on a piece of cardboard. You know what I mean? Like, just shit that was impossible when I was a kid. And now you can absolutely do it. If you choose to, if you want to, if it matters, you can do it.
Yeah, in your story, what makes it possible for you said the word luthier?
Luthier, yeah.
Luthier.
Yeah.
Is that the term for someone who makes guitars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crafts a guitar.
So that person is able to make a guitar now for that price and make a living at it because of the technology and tools and the computer software and things like that allow that to be made.
Yes.
Like this guy you showed making robots in his house, basically.
Yes.
Like just surrounding me is not a lot of, I mean, more than a hobbyist would spend, but not crazy amounts of money you can spend, and you can have like a fully capable thing a place that can produce a lot of different things, right?
Right.
That's technology having moved that forward. So I'm getting to the time where I need to.
Yeah, you got to go. We're over the show. I got to get in the car and drive to LA. So I got a show tonight at Flappers.
You better do that.
And then we got and then I will probably, at this rate, because I was up till 2:00 in the morning working on my Not the White House Correspondents' Dinner piece. I will probably have to. I'm going to stay overnight. I'm not going to drive back after the show and do radio in the morning from here. But next week, live in Chicago.
And
where
is the?
I will send you the. I'll send you the CPT. Yeah, I will send you the.
Easy.
No, BEZ is who chose me as the funniest teenager in Chicago.
Okay.
We love WBEZ.
Where did that come from? So BEZ is of another radio station?
Yeah, it's a Chicago station.
Okay.
WBEZ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was Chicago Sun-Times and WBEZ's funniest teenager in Chicago contest. They both put. I won that. Yeah, that's where that came from. So I owe the Chicago Sun-Times and WBEZ a debt of gratitude that they had the taste to know how funny I am.
All right, well,
so take off. All right.
Well, text me about the Friday morning thing.
I will.
You're welcome. If you want to come over, you're welcome. And then, we'll connect on the Saturday thing too.
Love it. Awesome. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers.
Great to see you all.
There he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Glenn taking off. And I got to say, hold on, I'll shut this off so that he doesn't accidentally add this. I'm still smaller on the screen because I changed the frame on my Nuckchuck. Sorry, there we go. I've got to head to LA because I have Flappers tonight. I probably won't do an afternoon show, or if I do, it'll be a tight one, and a little later. Luckily, I don't have to sing or whatever, but it's going to be an exhausting drive. If I leave right now, I would get there just in time to be late for the show. So just so you know. But that said, there's so much to deal with. This is Trump did an interview with Time Magazine on his first 100 days, and he said he's made 200 deals. 200. He said he's made 200 deals. Also, can I point out to all the folks, by the way, nut warning, but he's chosen this particular chair. I'm gonna fuck with the Alex Joneses out there. He chose this particular chair. He's holding it like, as opposed to others, with the Washington Monument behind him, which is obviously as a Mason, I greatly appreciate. He's got his pinky stuck up. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. What is that? Why is your pinky up? Is that a signal? Is that a signal to the Epsteins and the Roy Cohns of the world? I think so. Until I'm convinced otherwise, that's what I think. Chat room. Hi everybody. There you go. They've done an interview, and he said he made 200 deals. Which is this is and Trump has got to hate this. Yeah, I hate it, so he must. Jesus, well, let me show you. dealing with it is the first time they did it, it was deal with it, and now they're dealing with it. I don't think he had like first right of refusal on the photo. I'm gonna guess he didn't like it very much. Wow. Ugh. And he's like, you know, he loves to put it up there, so there's like no reason for those guys to give him an actual good picture, even if they had one, which I doubt. Let's be honest, I doubt. All right, so anyways, I will be listening to the audio version of this article on my way driving, so I will talk about it on radio at the very least. And if I do end up doing a short show, the goal is that I'm bringing one of the older computers that we have here, and I'm taking it to the rehearsal space that I showed you guys to try and re-up the tech there. And if I had a setup there that I can use, then I don't have to worry about whether or not anybody's trying to rehearse in the studio in the afternoon in the garage rehearsal space that I always have an issue with, that's either freezing or too hot or has mosquitoes. I've multiple times, you guys know this, I have been bitten by mosquitoes by doing the show in the garage. So hopefully this will be better. And since I have this space, I want to make use of it more and more. So off I go. Wish me luck. And I will see you guys this afternoon, possibly, if I can. If not, I will see you guys tomorrow for the radio show. And to Patreon members and our I'll see if the YouTube members, we're doing a dry run tonight to see if YouTube members will be able to see the stream. Because if I do a members only, it kicks out the. I think I have an idea. We shall see what we shall see. But Patreon get first. They get first run of it because they've been with us the longest, and you guys are the ones that keep us afloat no matter what. And then people have memberships on the other pages, subscriptions on Twitch and memberships on YouTube. I want to be able to include those in it, so I'm working on it. So wish me luck. It should be. They're making a lot of changes. That's why I'm trying to actually add these things, and they're not. I'm honestly, they're not very reliable. Like they're supposed to work, and then they don't, and it's one more thing I have to worry about right before I do a show. So I'm trying to get a way to do that. So anyways, much love to you guys. I will see you later, and I'm sorry to anybody. By the way, before I go, and Midwestern goodbyes being what they are, is everybody okay with the silly themes that I have that I made using AI, taking my own song and just having it converted? Thank you so much, Maxwell. Big Mac? I'll call you Big Mac. Thank you. I feel like these have value. And again, they're not anything that I could have the time to make on my own while I'm doing the show by my lonesome. So I like the original too, and it will always be around. Don't worry. Begging for acoustic. I'll do an acoustic version of it. That would be interesting. That I will have to record myself. That will have to be me. Yeah. Now you've given me work to do. Again. Son of a. All right. I will, Andrea. I'll keep you posted. There might be a way, we'll figure it out. I'm working on it. I so want it to work. See, that one doesn't rotate, so we'll just go with this guy. Yet another. Hold on.